let's just talk about this briefly. So Sebastian Rogers, sure you all remember, any of you that's interested in true crime, you remember this case. Every now and again I try and talk about it and keep Sebastian's name out there. Sebastian Rogers, he was 15 when he went missing from Tennessee in America. Just disappeared, didn't he? He was out for the day on the Sunday with his mum, Katie Proudfoot, and then in the morning when she went to get him up for school, he'd gone. That's what she says happened. There's no proof to suggest that anything else. You know, a lot of people are suspicious of Katie and his stepdad, Chris. But nobody knows what happened to Sebastian. Sometime overnight, he disappeared, literally into thin air. And this was, is it 2 years ago now? 2 years. He was 15 at the time, he'd be 17 now. He's high functioning, autistic. His biological parents were separated, Katie and Seth. And Katie was with her new husband, Chris Proudfoot. A lot of people very down on him because he was quite strict and admitted using corporal punishment against Sebastian. Now, you know, we don't even know what Sebastian would look like now. If he is still alive, which is, sorry, but it's highly unlikely, he won't look like this anymore. He's 17, he'd be taller, he's probably got a beard even. You know, he'd be different. You know, teenagers change so much at that age. So if he is still alive somewhere, which we can hope that he is, maybe he was abducted, and in which case, maybe he left voluntarily, maybe, you know, he literally just didn't want to live at home anymore. He was supposedly going to live with his biological dad. Maybe he didn't want to go. There's a lot of controversy about this case. There's a lot of he said, she said. You know, the as I say, the biological parents, Seth and Katie, they're not friends at all. So they don't, you know, there's a lot of acrimony in this case from the parents and no pulling together, really. Anyway, so Seth Rogers, his biological father, you know, my problem with Seth is he's very down on Katie. I feel like he's still in love with Katie from when they were married, but also he has virtually accused Katie and Chris of killing Sebastian. But we don't know that that's what happened. I mean, it may be what happened. The thing is, we just don't know, do we? Anyway, Seth has now put his money where his mouth is, if you like. Hi, Darren. Hi, Darren. Thanks for watching. And he has sued the police department for $25 million. I'm just going to read this to you. So, the father of a missing autistic teen is suing Tennessee agencies for $25 million, alleging that they failed to protect his son. Sebastian Rogers, 15, disappeared from his mother's Hendersonville home in February 2024 and remains missing. And the lawsuits claim that agencies involved failed his son. Seth Rogers is seeking compensation, court-ordered reforms, and the reopening of his son's case with adequate resources. So nearly 2.5 years after his 15-year-old autistic son, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, disappeared in Hendersonville, Seth is suing county and state agencies and a handful of department figureheads he says failed the boy, and he's asking for $25 million. So the lawsuits are against Sumner County, Tennessee, Sumner County Sheriff's Office, the sheriff himself, Eric Craddock, and Detective Brandon Carter, Tennessee Department of Children's Services, its Commissioner Margie Quinn, and employees Leslie Keel Ritchie, Laura Boswell, and Amira J. Walker. There are also another 25 Jane and John Doe defendants that are not named. So he claims the agencies and individuals failed his son. So the Sumner County Sheriff, Eric Craddock, said he will not comment on the pending litigation. So nobody's commenting. All they're saying, so the Tennessee Department of Children's Services Communications Director, Ashley Zarrett, also told the Tennessean, the department generally does not comment on pending litigation and is unable to comment on specific cases due to state and federal confidentiality laws. Our priority remains and will always remain the safety and well-being of children in Tennessee. Now, I don't know if that's true, of course. There's been a lot of children go missing in Tennessee. Summer Wells is another one. Is there a fault there in Tennessee? Is this a Tennessee problem, or is this particularly this case? Anyway, they did search for him in the beginning. I don't know what's happening at the moment with the case. It's all gone very quiet. You could almost think it was a cold case, so I'm sure they'd say it's not. They did search for him in a landfill. There was possible sightings that were all explored, weren't they? There's been all sorts going on, but nothing has ever come to anything. So I don't know. You tell me what you think. Do you think that Seth is right to take this action? Do you think he's got a case? Do you think he will get this compensation? I think it's well known that there's no love lost between him and the police departments, etc. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to lose a child, luckily, but I just don't know. I don't know what Seth thinks he will achieve by this, but the one thing that he will achieve by it is keeping Sebastian's name in the spotlight, and I think that's important, isn't it? I don't know what Katie and Chris think of it all. It's like, when your child is missing, you do want to keep their name in the spotlight, don't you? You would think you would. Where is Sebastian? What do you think? What happened to Sebastian? I think Sebastian may well have been catfished. I don't feel that his parents have got anything to do with it, either Katie or Chris or Seth. But it's possible, because nobody knows, do they? You've got to think that if Katie... So one of Seth's issues is he feels that the property was not preserved as a crime scene from day one. And maybe he's got a point, because something could have happened to Sebastian in that home. We just don't know, do we? So let me know what you think anyway. That's the latest news. Seth Rogers is suing authorities for $25 million. It's a lot of money. Okay. So I wanted to tell you about that because we followed Sebastian's case, haven't we? Quite, certainly when it was in the news more. It's not in the news that much now. It has all gone quiet. So I do think Seth is right in a way, because it will keep Sebastian's name in the news, and I do think that that is important, because these cases do go cold, because there's always another case. There's always another child goes missing, another case takes over, more shocking than the last one, more missing people, more missing children. So I think, personally, I think as a family member, that is, if you are a if your family member goes missing, especially a child, I do think the responsibility to you is to keep their name going, because the police, with the best will in the world, they will try their best, but they've got a lot of missing children to try and keep in the news, if you like. So the more you can push it, the better it is. So it's not a bad thing that he's doing. I don't blame him really for doing it.